Welcome to Reddit Revenge Stories. Did you know over 90% of people watch these videos but don't subscribe? If you enjoy stories of justice and payback, make sure to hit that subscribe button. It really helps the channel grow. And don't forget to like the video if you're ready for today's story. Let's get to the story. I never thought I'd be the kind of man telling a story like this. I've always been the quiet type. Steady, loyal, the kind of person who keeps his head down and gets the job done. I believed in hard work, honesty, and most of all, family. My name's Armin, and if you'd asked anyone who knew me just a year ago, they would have told you I had the perfect life. A loving wife, a comfortable home, a stable job. But as I sit here today, I realize how little we really know about the people we trust most. My wife, Meher, and I had been together for 12 years, married for 10. She was the kind of woman who turned heads without trying. But more than that, she was warm, charming, the kind of person who made everyone feel seen. I fell for her not just because of how she looked, but because of how she made me feel like I mattered. We weren't flashy, and we didn't need much. She taught at a local school, and I managed inventory at a regional warehouse. We lived in a quiet neighborhood, took weekend trips now and then, and every Friday night we'd sit out on the porch with tea and talk about life. At least that's what I thought. It started small, little things, missed calls, her phone always on silent when she came home, a sudden interest in fitness, a new perfume, and a habit of working late far too often. But I didn't jump to conclusions. I trusted her. That's what marriage is, right? Trust. You believe your partner because the alternative is too painful to even consider. But the signs kept coming. One night, I woke up at 2 a.m. and saw her sitting in the hallway texting. When I asked who she was talking to, she smiled awkwardly and said it was a friend from school dealing with a breakup. I didn't push. I didn't want to seem paranoid. But something inside me shifted that night. A seed of doubt was planted, and no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't shake it. A week later, I noticed she started taking extra care in how she dressed on certain days, always Tuesdays and Thursdays. Those happened to be her after-school workshop days. I asked her about it once, jokingly. She laughed it off, said a few teachers were going out afterward to unwind. I nodded. I wanted to believe her. I really did. Then came the weekend trip she took with her colleagues. It was a 2-day seminar in another city. When she got back, she was distant, quiet, almost like she was trying to act too normal. She hugged me when she walked in the door, told me she missed me, but her eyes told a different story. You can't fake that kind of thing when you've known someone for a decade. You just feel it. So I did something I never thought I'd do. I checked her phone. I'm not proud of it. I hated myself for even touching it. But something inside me, call it instinct, call it survival, just wouldn't let me stay blind anymore. She had changed her passcode, but I knew her well enough to guess it. It was our anniversary date. The irony. What I found wasn't explicit. No photos, no graphic messages, just a string of chats with a contact saved under a woman's name. Sarah B. But the way they spoke, it wasn't friendly. It was emotional, intense, full of inside jokes and late-night conversations. The kind of things you say to someone who sees a side of you that your spouse no longer does. My stomach dropped when I saw the timestamp. Messages exchanged while we were having dinner, while we were watching a movie while I was sleeping right beside her. And then I saw a photo, a simple one, just a coffee mug and two hands, hers and someone else's, across a table. His wristwatch, his handwriting on a napkin. A name I didn't recognize, a deal. It wasn't some fling. It wasn't just one mistake. It was a connection. A second life she was living while pretending everything was fine with me. I didn't confront her that night. I couldn't. I stayed up until morning, staring at the ceiling, replaying every conversation we'd ever had, every smile she'd given me, wondering how much of it had been real. The betrayal felt like a physical wound, sharp, deep, and impossible to ignore. Over the next few days, I played my part. I smiled. I kissed her goodbye in the morning. I asked her how work was, but behind every word, I was watching. I started keeping track, where she said she was going, who she said she was with. And slowly, a picture began to form. She wasn't even careful anymore. A deal wasn't just some stranger. He was her colleague. A young guy, divorced, charming in that careless kind of way. I looked him up. His face plastered all over social media, motivational quotes and selfies and travel photos. And there she was, too, hidden in the background of a group picture, blurry but unmistakable. I felt rage. Pure, undiluted rage. But I didn't act on it. Not yet. I knew I had to be smart, because I wasn't just going to expose her. I was going to make her feel what I felt. I wanted her to realize what she had thrown away. But more than that, I wanted her to regret it. I started preparing. I changed my routine, took better care of myself, hit the gym before work, reconnected with old friends, started saving money quietly. I spoke to a lawyer, not to file for divorce, not yet, but to understand my options. I created a folder on my computer labeled taxes and filled it with screenshots, call logs, and anything else that might come in handy later. I wasn't going to lose everything because of her choices. And then I found the final piece. She had left her laptop open one morning. She rarely did that. Maybe she was getting too comfortable. I opened her browser and found an email draft she hadn't sent yet. It was to him. A deal. She was planning to leave me, not immediately, but it was there. Lines like, "We need to be patient," and "He deserves the truth," and "I can't keep pretending." My heart felt like it was being crushed under the weight of each sentence. She was building a future without me while I was busy building a life for both of us. That's when I knew I couldn't beg. I wouldn't confront her in some emotional meltdown. I had to play the long game. I had to let her believe she was in control. Because only then could I take everything back. On my own terms. I started being warmer, kinder. I surprised her with flowers. I planned a weekend trip. She looked confused at first, then relieved. Like maybe she thought I had stopped suspecting. Like maybe I was blind again. And in a way, I was. But only on the outside. Inside, every smile I gave her was calculated. Every word was part of a plan. Because I wasn't going to stop at exposing her. I was going to destroy every illusion she had built and walk away with my dignity intact. The trip I planned was to the same hill station we'd visited on our third anniversary. I picked the same lodge, even the same room. Meher was surprised when I suggested it. Her expression flashed confusion before she smiled and agreed. She probably thought this was her opportunity to soften the blow. Maybe she'd use the trip to gently start that conversation she'd drafted in her unsent email. But she underestimated me. Everything I did now had a purpose. I wasn't just trying to make her comfortable. I was setting the stage. I wanted her to feel safe again. To think I was still clueless, still the dependable, naive husband who loved her too much to suspect a thing. It worked. She let her guard down. On that trip, she was affectionate more than she'd been in months. She laughed at my jokes, held my hand as we walked through the market, kissed me on the cheek when no one was looking. And I smiled through it all, knowing that every gesture was a thread I was letting her tie herself up in. What she didn't realize was that I had installed a discreet audio recorder in my backpack. I left it running whenever I went to the bathroom or stepped outside. Not because I thought she'd call him from our hotel room, she wasn't that careless, but because I wanted to capture the cracks. The little things she might say, the tone she used when she thought I wasn't paying attention. I collected everything. When we returned home, I shifted gears. I stopped asking her questions, stopped commenting on her outfits. I even made a fake schedule for myself, told her I had to work late every Wednesday and Friday for a new warehouse audit process. I'd leave at 6 p.m., circle the block, and park 3 streets down. From there, I watched, and just like that, my suspicions were confirmed. Her colleague Adil came by our house on a Friday. He never went inside, at least not while I was watching, but he picked her up. I followed them discreetly. They didn't go far, just a cafe on the other side of town. They laughed, talked like they were the only 2 people in the world. It was like watching strangers act out a romance script that had no place in my life. I didn't take photos that time, but I took mental notes. The next 2 weeks were all about building my evidence. I followed them again, once to a bookshop, once to a park, once to a small guest house. That day, I took photos. I kept the camera steady even though my hands were shaking. I snapped Adil holding her waist, Meher laughing as she leaned against his shoulder. The same shoulder I used to comfort her on cold nights. The same laugh I used to take pride in hearing first thing in the morning. But I didn't cry. Not anymore. I was far beyond heartbreak now. I made copies of everything, printed and digital. One set went into a safe deposit box at my bank. Another I uploaded to an encrypted cloud folder. I wasn't just protecting myself legally, I was preparing the final blow. I wanted my exit to be clean, silent, undeniable, and poetic. There was one more thing I needed to do before I pulled the trigger. My parents. They lived in another city, and while we weren't extremely close, I respected them deeply. They'd always adored Meher. I didn't want them blindsided. So I took a weekend to visit, alone. Over dinner, I told them calmly and without bitterness what had been happening. My mother cried. My father clenched his jaw but said nothing for a long time. Then he looked at me and said, "Do what you need to do, but don't destroy yourself trying to teach someone else a lesson." That stuck with me. I returned home with clarity. Meher didn't know it, but I had taken the week off work. I told her I was on night shifts now, more late audits. She nodded, barely interested. She was texting someone under the table. I didn't even have to guess who. I spent those nights packing, quietly, room by room. I'd rented a flat across the city under a friend's name. Nothing fancy, just a temporary place. I didn't need comfort. I needed control. By Friday morning, my exit plan was ready. I scheduled a delivery to her school, an envelope marked private, to be handed to Mayor only. Inside were 5 photos, not explicit, just enough. Her and a deal. Laughing, close, clearly not just friends. I didn't write anything. I didn't need to. I knew her well enough to predict the panic. She called me 10 times that afternoon. I didn't answer. She messaged me things like, "Where are you?" and "We need to talk." When I finally walked into the house that evening, she was sitting on the couch, her face pale, hands trembling. I played dumb. "Hey," I said, setting down my fake work bag. "How was your day?" Her voice cracked. "You sent those photos?" I tilted my head, pretending not to understand. "What photos?" She broke down. "Armin, please, I don't know how this happened. I never wanted to hurt you." I sat across from her, calm as ever. "But you did." She reached for my hand. I pulled it away. She flinched. "I didn't sleep with him," she blurted out, like that was supposed to make it better. "We just connected. It got out of control." I nodded slowly. "You know what's funny? I believed in you more than anyone ever did." Tears welled in her eyes. "It was a mistake. I—" "You made 100 choices before it became a mistake, Meher." She didn't answer. Her face collapsed into her hands. I stood up. "I've packed most of my things. I'll be out by Sunday. You can stay here. I already spoke to a lawyer. I'm not going to fight dirty. But I'm not going to cover for you either." She looked up. "Please don't tell anyone. Don't ruin me." I stared at her for a moment. "I don't need to ruin you. You already did that to yourself." The next morning I left before she woke up. She didn't try to stop me, but I wasn't done yet. In the following weeks, I started to move forward, quietly. She tried to call a few times, sent long messages, apologizing, asking to meet. I ignored them all. What she didn't know was that I had already set the rest of the plan in motion. You see, Adil had a reputation, but only among a small circle. His bosses didn't know, his family didn't know. But now they would. I anonymously sent a flash drive to his workplace. It contained a montage of photos and time-stamped messages that I had saved from Meher's phone and laptop. Again, nothing vulgar, just undeniable. I didn't need to say who I was. I just needed the truth to speak for itself. Within a week, he was put on temporary leave. Word got around. Meher resigned from her school not long after. I heard she tried to apply at a different one but was quietly turned down. I didn't laugh. I didn't gloat. I just felt finished. I focused on myself, got a better job, found a cleaner apartment. I went to therapy, even joined a hiking group. My world didn't end. In fact, it began. I wasn't broken. I was rebuilt. And Meher? She still sends me emails sometimes. Long ones, remorseful, regretful. She says she misses us, that she still dreams about our life. But I don't reply. I don't need to. Because sometimes the loudest revenge isn't shouting or exposing or fighting back. It's silence. Silence. And living well. It's been almost a year since I left that house. 12 months since I walked out quietly, without drama. And not once have I looked back with regret. In the first few weeks, I thought about her every day, not because I missed her, but because the silence after betrayal is deafening. I would hear an old song we used to listen to on road trips, or smell her perfume when passing someone on the street, and I'd freeze. Those memories weren't painful, they were empty, like echoes from a past life I didn't recognize anymore. People around me began to notice the change. I had a calmness they couldn't explain. My coworkers asked if I'd been promoted. My friends asked if I'd met someone new. I just smiled. What I had found wasn't a new person. It was myself. I focused all my energy into rebuilding, piece by piece. I poured myself into work. I started waking up early, running before sunrise. I spent weekends exploring parts of the city I'd never seen. I even learned how to cook properly, something I never had time for before. Every small achievement felt like a quiet victory. But the real transformation happened inside. The anger faded, not all at once, but gradually. I stopped obsessing over what she had done. I stopped imagining alternate timelines where I had confronted her sooner or tried to save our marriage. I realized something simple and powerful. You can't save someone who's already decided to leave, even if their body stays behind. One afternoon, I got a call from her sister, Alina. We hadn't spoken since the separation. She was always close to Maher but had also respected me deeply. She told me everything, Alina said. She's not doing well. I stayed silent. She's lost the job offers. Adil left the country. Apparently he cut ties completely after things got out. She's alone. I didn't know what to say to that, and honestly, I didn't feel much. No hatred, no satisfaction, just distance. Do you want to talk to her? Alina asked gently. No, I replied firmly but calmly. I don't need anything from her anymore. That was the truth. I had no desire to reconnect, to reopen wounds that had already scarred over. I wished Meher well in a distant, detached way, but I didn't owe her my peace, and I wasn't about to offer it up. Sometime later, she wrote me one last email. I didn't open it for weeks. When I finally did, it was long, several paragraphs. She talked about regret, about the hole she'd dug herself into. She said she had been blinded by excitement, by the feeling of being seen by someone new. She apologized again for the betrayal, the deception, the destruction of our home. But the line that stayed with me was this: I thought I'd found freedom in someone else. I didn't realize I was walking away from the only place I was ever truly safe. I read that sentence twice. Then I closed the email and archived it. I never responded. I never needed to. Freedom, I had learned, doesn't come from breaking rules or chasing new thrills. It comes from honesty, from staying true to your values, even when others don't. And most of all, from walking away when staying would cost you your soul. 6 months after that, I met someone. Her name is Zara. She's a graphic designer. We met at a workshop I was helping organize. She asked about my presentation on logistics, joked that I made warehouse management sound poetic. I laughed genuinely for the first time in a long time. With Zara, things were different from the start. No pressure, no expectations, just conversations that made time disappear. She didn't ask about my past immediately, and I didn't offer it. We built something slow and steady, the way a good fire starts, not with a match, but with patience and care. When I did eventually tell her about Meher, she didn't judge. She listened. That meant everything. I don't know what the future holds. Maybe Zara and I will build something lasting. Maybe not. But I do know this: I'm not afraid anymore. Not of loss, not of betrayal, not even of starting over. Because I've already survived the worst kind of heartbreak, the kind that sneaks in quietly wearing the face of someone you loved. And I've learned that healing isn't about pretending it didn't happen. It's about becoming someone stronger because of it. One day, I walked past my old neighborhood. I hadn't planned to, it just happened. I stood across the street from that house for a few minutes. The curtains were drawn. The porch light flickered. I thought about knocking, about stepping onto that porch again, about what I'd say if she opened the door. But I didn't. I turned and kept walking. Not because I was running from anything, but because I was finally free. Free from her choices. Free from bitterness. Free to live again. And that, in the end, was the best revenge of all.